Today, I kind of wanted Dakota to get on a video and explain the Jarvis app that he has been working on for
3 years.
3 years now. So Jarvis was kind of an idea that I had where people would be able to basically take a picture of like maybe a slip, an appointment slip or something they get at a doctor's office and input it directly into the calendar. Now, originally I thought maybe it would just be able to be an add-on for a calendar, but Dakota actually went ahead and created a whole new calendar app to add this feature into it. So you said you've been working on it for about 3 years.
Yeah.
When did you first, do you remember when you first started working on it?
The first time I ever considered working on it was like the beginning of 2019. I was extremely bored and I was like, I don't know, I had like a couple ideas of things in mind. So I was like, you know, a project, I wanted a project, something to work on. And I kind of started going through it and I was thinking from when you initially told me it, I didn't think something like that would be possible to like take a picture of text and turn it into something on a computer, like create a calendar event out of it or something like that. But then I saw those apps where it's like where you can take a photo of a math problem and then it will look at the math problem, turn it into text, and then solve it for you. And I was thinking, well, if there's thousands of apps that do this, then there's got to be some way to like look at text in an image and turn it into something on a computer, like actual characters. And so it kind of started from there. So the first 3 months I worked on it on Android, and then I kind of scrapped that project, and then I started again from scratch on, well, relatively from scratch, rebuilding it in a different way. And then that version is the one that we have today.
So why did you scrap the original one?
I wanted it to be cross-platform. I figured for one individual, it's just not realistic for me to be able to manage 3 different versions of an app potentially, because you'd have Android, iOS, and web, and potentially even more if you think about like different types of wearables and things of that nature. And so to make it easier, I figured something cross-platform like that, like what is built on now, would be better for that.
What was the hardest thing throughout the whole thing, like throughout the creation of the app and stuff? What do you say was the hardest?
The hardest thing for me was like UX. So there's UI and UX. From what I understand, the difference is UI is mainly like the aesthetics, the look of things, and UI is like user interface and UX is user experience. So the hardest thing for me is because I've really never done a lot of projects that were going to be used by other people directly. And so one thing for me I was considering a lot along the way is like, how usable is this for another person? And that's why it was really useful having you try it out, because you're a person who uses the calendar who will actually get like a lot of benefit out of it. And so knowing certain things were either kind of clunky or didn't really work as expected or were kind of confusing was really useful, because that's something I've never had like an experience dealing with before.
So if you could go back to when you first started it, is there anything that you would do differently that maybe would make the process a little bit easier?
Yeah, my main thing would be to have focused on like in app development, and I guess like software in general, they call it like the MVP. I would have focused on getting very basic things laid out first, because if you have like, you know, the idea of, okay, like this is going to be a calendar app, but you focus on like, oh, I'm going to throw in this feature and I'm going to add this and this and that. Like you end up with a lot of like feature creep, they call it, where you have, you know, it could start as a calendar and then it spirals out of control into all this other different stuff instead of focusing on the first thing, like first things first. And now I'm happy with where it's at. I prioritize that more now, but I would have liked to do that to get the first version out quicker, because the first version took me, I think I sent you the first one like 6 months after. And for reference, like I'm pretty sure TikTok as a whole, don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure as a whole TikTok was built in like 6 months. Like an app like of that complexity and like scale and whatnot.
But they probably had a lot of people working on it.
Yeah. I just figured that would probably be one thing. I also, I guess this isn't as much of a like would have done different, but I would have, I think, and I guess this is something I want to do going into the future, is I would have done more research into like machine learning, because right now, the basis for the model is it extracts all the text, like, in the image you give it for turning those pictures into the events. And then it kind of scans through it and it's like, okay, this is an email, this is a date, this is a time, those kind of things. In the future, I want to have like a custom-built model that can more accurately predict those things to make the app more functional.
So is that a future feature you would like to maybe add to the app, or?
Yeah, I can't promise anything because I don't know if I'm smart enough to understand machine learning, but I would really like to do a custom model. Not necessarily for, there's two different things that are going on in the app when it does that, like turns those events into pictures. One's neural language processing and then one is entity extraction. So neural language processing is like, it basically will look at the image, look at the characters and extract characters like, oh, it will extract an R, an A, an E, like, and it will do it based on how confident it is that that is the actual letter.
Okay.
And then entity extraction is the part where it actually pulls out all the data, like where it will pull out the date, the time, the emails, websites, locations, all of that stuff.
Okay.
And entity extraction is typically using like, when you send a text and it will be like, it will highlight like a date in the text. That's the entity extraction type stuff.
What other features do you think you would like to add in the near future?
I should have a list. I can check the list.
Okay.
The big one I really want to do, mainly is I want to translate the app to Spanish. It's like 25%-ish done, but I would really like to have it in Spanish just so we can have more people have access to it.
Yeah.
I want like, I just kind of have it written down as enhanced view. Basically, I want a view. So there's a normal calendar view that we have now. I want also there to be one that's more like how other calendar, like how like a Google Calendar is, where you can kind of like pinch and zoom in on stuff and like zoom out, and you can have a little bit easier control, or not easier control, but it gives you more like flexibility. Because one thing I tried prioritizing also was like keeping things simple, but also making sure if you are somebody who wants to do more advanced things, you can do that.
Okay.
And so that's my hope. That's kind of what a lot of the roadmap is. I'd also like to, this is just general quality of life things, like being able to share links to events so people can create a link, send it to their friend if they want to add something to their calendar. Exporting events so that you're not locked into that. Like I kind of have the base of like, I don't want at any point like create an ecosystem where, like right now you can import events, but you can't take stuff out. I want to make it where you can import, export, do whatever. So, it's your data's not locked into our platform, like you can use it wherever you want.
What would your goal of creating this be? Would you like to down the road, like continue with this, like for years to come, if it can become profitable? Would you like to like have a team? Would you like to keep working on your own? Would you like to evolve into something else? What would you like to, ultimately, what is your goal that you would like to come from you creating this app?
My main thing is just I want to create something that like people genuinely find useful. Like it's not something that just like exists. Even if it's a small subset of people, even if it's not profitable, I just want something that like can be useful and help people in their lives is the main thing. Because I had the philosophy from the beginning of it of if I just focus on creating a genuinely good app, then people respect that, and at the very least that like I feel like that's worth something.
Yeah.
Even if it doesn't become the most profitable thing in the world or become super popular, just being able to have like a dedicated group of people who use it and like give feedback, honest feedback on it, and genuinely enjoy using it.
Now, do you have any other app ideas that you would like to work on in the future, maybe that were sparked while working on this or something?
There's one other one, the one we talked about before. I have a couple other software project ideas, but they're not necessarily apps, but there's something very interesting I would like to try soon.
Now, what advice would you maybe give to someone in your shoes that has a good idea for an app and wants to create one?
So you're saying like they don't have experience with?
Yeah. Maybe this is like they just came up with an idea and they're trying to consider between just attempting to make the app themselves or paying someone to make it. What would you recommend?
So when it comes to like, if you want to make it yourself, start from scratch, like coding it. The main advice, and I like anytime somebody's asked me about like doing coding or starting anything in coding, I always say this: I don't know the definitive way to get to the point you want to get to in it, but I can at least say what worked for me. And what worked for me was just, I had what I wanted to build, and then I started working backwards, looking at, okay, what do I need to learn to get to that point? So originally, the first time I ever coded anything, I wanted to make Minecraft mods. That's the only thing I wanted to do. So I just looked at, okay, what do I need to do to start making Minecraft mods? And I was like, okay, I need to start learning Java. So I would just go on YouTube and just start watching Java programming tutorials. I'd sleep and put Java programming tutorials on. All the time I'd have those on. And then next thing was like, I wanted to make games on Roblox. So I looked up, how do you make games on Roblox? How do you use Roblox Studio? The next one was the websites. When FreeSpace first started, you asked me about making the website. I had no idea how to make websites, but I figured, well, I want to make this website. I want to be able to like manage this. So what do I need to do to learn how to do that? And then finally we get to the app, and that was over the course of 8 years. The first time I ever did anything programming was in like 2013. So, or 9 years now. Well, will be 9 years later.
Mind you, in 2013, he was only 9.
I got my first computer, and all I did was play Minecraft, so that's all I could play. And so I was like, just how can I like make mods for this game? And then that Java programming experience helped when I was doing the first version of the app of the app on Android, because Java it's kind of getting phased out now, but Java was the programming language that you build Android apps on. And so that experience, even if it didn't necessarily at the time lead to anything, helped me with Jarvis when I was doing that initial Android prototype. And then going into the platform it's on now, which is Flutter, which uses the programming language Dart. I found it was very, very similar to Java. And so in the end, basically, the main thing for anybody who wants to get started on doing something like that, for me, I would just say, look up what you need to do to make that thing. So if you want to make an app, look up how to make an app, and then start backwards from, okay, I need to learn this language, I need to learn that and this. And I would focus on that one thing, because I think it's really easy, especially in programming, to feel like, oh, you need to always keep up with like the latest trends and learn like 50 different languages. Mm-hmm. But when you're first starting, and I think a lot of other people give this advice too, like focus on that one thing you really want to do. And it also helps when you already have the idea, you've already done like half the battle, because a lot of the battle can be motivation, because there's going to be a lot of times when you're programming it where you're going to be like, this is terrible, I can't solve this, I've been working on this problem for a month now and I haven't gotten anywhere. And that motivation to want to create that idea is going to drive you through those points. And it's really rewarding too when you get through those points where you can be like, it might have taken a month, but I finally solved this. Like is really, really rewarding. Like if you love problem solving, then that also would help.
Now, during the creation of this, was there any part you felt really stumped, or is there anything that really held you up during the process? And what advice would you give to someone else that may be in the similar position?
There were a lot of times I can say with 100% certainty, I never thought about giving up on it. I always was like, no matter what, I will finish this app. I do not care what it takes. But there were a lot of times where I wouldn't say I got angry, because I don't think I get angry at things, but there were a lot of times where I was like very frustrated.
Are there any times where you kind of just closed it down and were like, I'll work on this another day, or maybe went a few days without working on anything?
Yeah, that's one of the things they talk about a lot in programming too, is sometimes you really just have to walk away from a problem, because your brain's still going to work on it even if you don't recognize it working on it. So you could try to like just hound at yourself and like be like, I'm going to work on this for like 8 hours straight and get nowhere, versus you could work on it for an hour, be like, I'm a bit stumped on this, get up, I don't get lunch, come back, and you might have already had the solution. Like I've had so many times where and now like my notes app is filled with so many things of just like, I didn't have a solution, I went to bed and I'd be about to go to sleep, and then all of a sudden the solution would come to me. Mm-hmm. And then I get up in the morning, I try it, and it worked. And I could have tried to sleep deprive myself trying to stay up solving the issue, or I could have just taken that route. There's even like What was the first question again? 'Cause I want to address something in it.
Were there any times where you were stumped or like kind of stuck?
So there were a couple things that really stumped me. One was the machine learning initially, because I was trying to figure out, one, how to take the text out of the images, but then at the time I didn't know what entity extraction was, so I was trying to manually detect like a date in the text, and my logic to do that is much worse than anything machine learning can do. And so that was really rough, because I was like, if I want this to really be useful to people, this needs to be accurate. Like, it can't pull out, I don't know, some random text and throw it in the location like box.
Yeah.
Like, it needs to genuinely be accurate. And I feel like it's gotten to a good point of that. But that was definitely a frustrating one. That took basically the entire summer of 2020 to figure out. And then the second one was, it kind of came back to UX of like, there's certain things I want to implement, but how do I implement them in a way that's genuinely useful to people? Like, this might be a cool idea, but if it's not usable, if it's not understandable to somebody, like readable, then what's the point? And so that stumped me at a lot of different points. Like, because for me, it's really easy for me to put music on and just go at it on like the back end of an app, just working on all the little stuff, interacting with servers, doing little logic bits. But UI, I have to really sit down and like think about it, because design is not my passion. Some of the early designs for the app were absolutely terrible. They are locked away in a vault.
So do you think in the future you could benefit maybe by having other people to maybe carry out a certain aspect of it? Like, maybe if you did the coding and you had someone like maybe Matt help you with the designing of it, do you think you could benefit from having that?
I think it would be beneficial, but also I kind of like the challenge of learning it on my own and doing it on my own. And another thing is that this is more of a personal thing for me, is I don't want to be like, I don't want to be profiting or in like benefiting from someone else's hard work. Like, if I was in that position, I would rather give it to somebody else and they get like whatever comes out of Jarvis, kind of.
But wouldn't you like to maybe at some point collaborate with someone, like even if it was an app in the future or something? Wouldn't it kind of be cool to come together with someone who maybe has a different skill set than you to maybe make something together? Kind of like when like a rapper comes together with like a producer or something.
Yeah. That would be cool. But I think in that position, I would rather be on more of a like team where I'm not leading. So like, I would rather come into a project at that point rather than be gathering up people for a project kind of thing. Because I feel like it intrinsically, like when you start a project and you're gathering those people up, whether or not you want it, you have a lot of credit gets put on you, whether or not you like, and a lot of people can fall into the background. I'm personally fine with falling into the background, because for me, I want to work on something and be able to like benefit a lot of people's lives. I don't necessarily care about the like recognition for it. And right now that's harder to do with like software, but going into the future, that's something I'd like to do. So if I ever had like an idea, like, I don't know, someone came to me with like an app about like it was something for like a charity, for example, like I would love to do that, but I would rather be approached with it rather than approach somebody, because I don't want to get like credit for that, I guess.
So if someone came to you about designing an app, would you be willing to?
Yeah, 100%.
So you'd be willing to create a whole nother app?
Yeah.
Now, knowing what you know now, do you think you could shorten up that 3 years of making the app? Or do you think it would still probably be around the same time?
If I was making it for somebody else, typically when you do apps for somebody else on like a contracting basis like that, you lay out like specific design specifications. I think I could probably do it quicker based on if we have like specific constraints we're holding this app to. The problem with this was there were so many moments where I was like, this would be really cool to implement. And I'm like, this is going to take a month to do. And I'm like, yeah, but it'd be really cool though.
Yeah.
Like the reminders initially, I was just going to have them be local. So basically there's some kind of finicky stuff you have to do if you want, say you have set a reminder for a reminder for an event and then want that event's reminder to fire off on, say, every account that's logged, or every device that's logged into the account that event is saved on. That was one of the things where I was like, this would be really cool, but it's going to take forever to do and test and everything. And that probably took me like 6 months, which a lot of people could have done it quicker.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I kept coming back to it and being like, oh, maybe I could do this better, or this or that better.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's just there was like a lot of feature creep. But if this was for someone else where they have like design specifications, they know exactly what they want done.
Yeah.
I definitely think I could do it quicker because then I know exactly what I need to put out. Like, for example, the Spvce website, that probably took me like 6 months to do, but the websites I've done for other people have probably taken a week or two because normally they have very specific constraints on what they want done for their website.
Now, what do you think you've learned from this for like moving forward?
Managing time, and also in programming and stuff, I feel like it's kind of like rewarding, like having your first actual project like put out there for other people to like use, whether or not like you get feedback like it's great or like it's kind of trash. Like it's still rewarding to have that first project out for people to actually use.
Yeah.
Because like I said, I've never made anything programming wise and actually really had other people use it before. This is the first time I've ever really done something like this.
Yeah.
So like for me, taking a project from like an idea to completion was the thing I learned. I got to work on problem solving a lot more, which I feel like just in general helps. I got to work on my what I think some would call Google foo, which is just your ability to like search things efficiently. Because a lot of things in programming is just knowing, because sometimes you encounter issues where a lot of people have had it, you just need to know the right thing to search up. That has been really useful. Just in terms of like other aspects of life, if I search something up, I know, like, I feel like I know better how to search it. Problem solving was also really helpful for me in math, especially because I was never particularly good at math up until this like final senior year. Like the problem solving I think helps a lot because it helps you like stick with a problem and really try to find the solution instead of giving up on it and just being like, I'm just going to put a 0 down and just move on from this question. Things like that. I think the biggest one was definitely like taking a project to completion. That was the biggest thing I learned.
So how do you feel now that you are releasing the app? Because the app will be live with this video. You feel nervous? You feel anxious?
I feel good about it, but also I do feel kind of nervous because I don't like. I feel like people have certain expectations for things, and like I want it to live up to those expectations, especially with how long I've been working on it. So like there is some like nerves to it because like I said before, I genuinely want it to be something that like people find useful. I don't want it to just be like a thing that exists. Like I want there to be some community of people who like use it and genuinely like, I love this account, like this helps me in some way. Cause so yeah, I'm kind of nervous about it, but also I'm excited because I started working on this in 9th grade. So this thing has been with me throughout the entirety of high school. Like it is almost like grown with me through high school. So like it's really cool to just have it out there now.
Now, before we end, there are paid subscriptions.
Yeah.
So could you explain those for anybody that's curious with getting one?
So there are 2 monthly and 2 yearly subscriptions. Well, there's 2 subscriptions overall. There's the premium and then the group subscription. The premium one is 99 cents a month or $5.99 a year. And then the group subscription is $5.99 a month or $35.99 a year. The premium subscription, basically all your events will be backed up. You can log in on as many accounts as you want. Everything will get synced in real time. So if you add an event on your phone, it will immediately show up on your another phone. You'll also, when it comes out, you will have access to Jarvis, what I've been calling for now Jarvis for Web. So it will be a web app version of it, so you can use it on your computer. For the group one, the group, you get everything that the premium subscription has, except you also get what is effectively 10 different profiles. So you can separate all your events into 10 different profiles, and instead of having to buy them individually or individually sign out, log in to all these different accounts, you can just do it on your homepage. You just tap at the top, and a drop down will pop down, and you can choose all your different profiles that you've created. You can create up to 10 of them. And 10 is just kind of the limit for now. If in the future, I feel like it can be expanded safely, I will. But yeah, that's the main thing. The premium lets you back up all your events to the cloud. You can access them anywhere in real time. And then the group plan adds on to that by allowing you to have 10 different profiles to organize everything.
And then another thing that was really cool was there are no ads.
Yeah, that was another thing from the beginning. I didn't want any ads. I didn't want any tracking. I didn't want anything like things that I feel like we become so common and like used to. And I've had that philosophy. The FreeSpace website, there are no trackers, no ads, no nothing on the FreeSpace website. Nothing at all. I made sure of it. I went through some lengths to get to that point. There's nothing on the FreeSpace website with trackers. Same for the Jarvis website. There's no trackers. All we have is like basic data, which we know anyways. Like every time you request something from a server, you know that a person requested it.
Yeah.
Like stuff like that. But there's no like tracking. There's no analytics. There's no like, we're not gathering data. We don't know that you're 18 from Argentina, for example. And with the app, there is the Google Play Store like analytics they give you, but that's something we don't control. Like I can't tell them to stop giving me that data. They just do it. But I made sure to turn everything off data collection wise that I possibly had control over. And yeah, I never want to add, because I figure it's a productivity app. Your productivity is getting limited if you have ads getting in the way. Yeah. And I know everybody hates you know when you tap an ad and then it opens a web page and it throws the whole flow off. Yeah. Like that kind of thing. So from the beginning, no matter what, I didn't want ads in it. And that's why I'd had to talk with somebody else, like asking why certain things were paid that would be free with like a Google account, for example. And the difference is with Google, you pay with your data, which if that's something you're fine with, then that's cool. But at least in Jarvis, you're not paying with your data, you're paying with your money. You know what is and isn't being taken from you.
So what else would you, before we end it, what else would you like to say before people kind of dive into the app?
The main thing I would just say is this is my first time ever making something like this, so I don't expect it to be perfect. I don't expect like people to like everything about it. But I hope that I can build on it from what people say they do and don't like about it, so that I can make it as good as possible. Like I said, I really want it to be something like people enjoy using, like they feel like they actually benefit from using this calendar over another calendar. Yeah. And that's the main thing, is like I'm taking any and all feedback I can get possibly on it, because I just want it to be genuinely useful. And I know it's probably not going to be perfect to be at launch, but the nice thing about software is you can iterate on it. You know, it's not a final finished project when you release it. You can always add more to it. And so going into the future, I would just like to ask people to give any feedback on it. It could be, this button looks kind of weird, this button is kind of positioned off. As long as it's something I can like build on. Like if you just say it's garbage, like that's cool if you think it's garbage, but I need to know why you think it's garbage so I can like fix the things that you think are garbage about it.
And that pretty much says everything you guys need to know. Link down in the description below will be the Jarvis app, so you can just go onto the Android Google Play Store and download it. And what would it take for you to get this on iPhone? What kind of confirmations, or how many downloads, or what would you need to kind of motivate you to put it on the Apple Store?
The main reason it's not on Apple Store is just because finance, like $99 a year for something where we're not entirely sure if there's like a basis of users would be kind of, it might be off base. So it's been easier to start with the Google Play Store, where it's, you know, you pay $25 flat and you can upload the app. So for it to make it to Apple, the Apple App Store, I'd probably just need to see support for it, like support to where we can be like financially, yeah, we could sustain keeping this on the App Store, basically.
Cool. So if you guys have any questions for Dakota, put them down below and we'll try to answer them and everything. And hope you guys enjoy the app. Dakota's 3 years of hard work have made this possible, and hopefully you guys enjoy it. And we'll see you guys later. Peace out.